Welcome to Money Making Sense, the show that if money affects your life in any way whatsoever, we're going to talk about it. And today we are still in the middle of our 10 tax tips series. Joining me is Scott Czaja. You're with WSRP?
Yes.
Is that correct? All right. So you're going to help us through, I'm going back to school, I've got educational expenses, and I'd really love to write these things off on my taxes. So how do I do that?
Well, the key starting point for the credits and other tax benefits is really getting the substantiation from the institution you're attending. There's a tax form that quantifies qualified educational expenses, and most university and colleges, it's a 1098-T form, will summarize on a calendar year basis what you've spent in these qualifying expenses. Most of them are available right on the website. So a student, as long as they have their student ID, can log in, get the information within a reasonable amount of time. It should be posted hopefully by the end of January.
Okay, so this isn't like charities where I just say, oh yeah, I donated this amount and then hope the IRS doesn't audit me because I said it was $200,000 that I gave.
Exactly. I would say the IRS doesn't have a strong computer matching program on this yet, but they do. It's evolved quite a bit so that it's getting better and better on the compliance side.
Now, does the educational expenses, can I write off mine and my children's, or is it only for me?
It's the key is always with following the dependency exemption. So if you're not claiming a child as a dependent and that child is going to school, it could be a divorce situation. The child could be grown up and working full time. The education credits follow where the dependency exemption was taken. So that's key.
Okay, so all the kids have flown the coop right now, and I, sacrificed my education for them. Mm-hmm. So now I am going back to school. So what are the types of things that I can write off?
Basically, tuition and any college course expenses that are required as a condition for you to take the class. So lab fees, certain books, certain other fees that may be incurred, but the institution should summarize those for you because they give very detailed accounting of what you paid towards tuition. Okay,
so I'm getting a degree in like recreation, and so we do a lot of rock climbing. So I have to purchase rock climbing equipment. Can I write that off?
Well, that and the pretty helmet and all your clothing, I would say, is suspect. But if you have to buy certain type of, release cords or strengthened cords, and it's a requirement for the class, then it should qualify.
Oh, okay. What else? You were talking about once I start filling out my taxes.
Yes.
What am I looking for especially now we have the new tax forms for 2019. Yes. What exactly am I looking for so I can get the best refund or credit?
If you're going to do it yourself, the new 1040 is smaller. We lost a number of things, itemized deductions and whatnot. You're going to look for credits first. First, get your 1098-T, which has the qualifying expenses that would qualify for one of two types of credits. The American Opportunity Credit, and the second credit is the lifelong credit. The first credit has a maximum tax credit of $2,500, and there's a formula. The first $2,000 you get dollar for dollar, 100%. Anything above the first $2,000, it's 25%, but the total is $2,500 as a credit. That could be refundable up to 40%. So as CPAs, we just have input screens. We see that 1098, we know exactly where to enter it, and these formulas that I'm telling you about, the first 2,000 and then 25%, programs have all of this already in them.
Okay.
So the days to do this manually, it gets rather complicated because these credits are subject to phase out. So the second credit was the lifelong credit. That's 20% of eligible expenses. So the American Opportunity is a better credit. The lifelong is available, and both of these are subject to phase out. So if your income is too high, you will not be eligible for either credit.
Oh, that was my next question was, I can get this no matter what my income. If I'm going back to school, I'm going to get these credits.
No, I think for 2018, the phase out on a married filing joint return is about $116,000. Single taxpayer, it's probably $58,000. And it's modified adjusted gross income. So there's a line on the form, adjusted gross income. We modify it for certain other things. So it's really intended to help low-income individuals.
And do I get to take both those credits?
No, there's no double dipping. So if you have some
well,
of the...
that's how I get money. I mean, come on.
No, you're eligible for one or the other. And there's other... student loan interest is deductible up to $2,500. There's deductible IRAs that you could pay for education purposes. And you could raid your IRAs, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs. There's an exception if you're going to use the distribution towards education to avoid some penalties. So there's a number of different education-related employer plans. You just have to, you could get on the internet, Google education assistance on your taxes, and then you'll have a lot of reading.
Wow. Well, it sounds like I actually kind of need to go to a CPA, though, especially with the new tax forms that are coming out.
Yeah.
It's all going to be a bit too confusing.
Yeah, I think for the first year, after the first year of transition with the loss of the personal exemptions, but the increase in the standard deductions, a lot of people will find out that, gosh, I don't have to really worry about the little charitable contribution receipts and the medical expense receipts because my standard deduction went up so much. I may not even be close to see which is to my benefit.
Okay.
So.
Any other education expenses that we haven't talked about that could be written off on taxes? Or they're just too many to discuss?
No, you get into an interesting area dealing with scholarships. But typically, the scholarship assistants are also properly reported on the 1098-T. There's been a battle in the past with higher education about some graduate fellows who are actually doing work and trying to call it a scholarship and not income. Those have been pretty much put to bed. So I would, just do some reading.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Scott Czaja. You're with WSRP.
Yes.
Again, and if anybody else needs their own certified public accountant, go to uacpa.org to find the one that's right for you. And also stay tuned to KSL News Radio. We're going to be bringing you tips for the next several weeks, and you'll never miss another episode or another tip.
Thanks for being a Money Making Sense listener. Follow your common sense on the social media. Money Making Sense on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.